Honourable Senators, I rise today to speak at the second reading of Bill S-222, an act to amend the Canada Elections Act. This legislation seeks to expand and extend the federal voting age in Canada to 16 and 17-year-olds. As I said in my previous speech on S-Vote 16, when I was first introduced to the idea of lowering the voting age to 16, I had trouble wrapping my head around the idea. My concern was that for teenagers, democratic participation may feel like a burden rather than the opportunity it is. I thank Senator McFedrin for not only sponsoring this bill, but also for challenging me to think beyond my comfort zone, my biases, and my belief that I knew what was best for our youth. When I was being challenged to think about expanding the voting age, I thought about my mother and father and how their generations and the many generations before them were already working hard at the age of 12, fishing, trapping, living off the land in -40 weather, and doing it successfully generation after generation until federal policies and legislation and religious organizations unilaterally imposed oppression. These generations were expected to work and to contribute to the running of the household, as well as to the collective, and the young were taught tradition, work ethics, values, and life skills to be passed on, life skills to keep us alive in a good way. This was self-government tempered with Creator's laws. Life was about conservation, enjoyment, purpose, humanhood, and spirituality. I approach the topic of expanding the voting age through a lens of democratic evolution. Our democratic system is a living structure, not a static monument, and therefore should be treated as a living and dynamic structure. Democracy is central to Canada as it is to the United Kingdom. Canadians take pride in its evolution and how it has and continues to inspire. Over Canadian history, men and women have struggled long and hard for the right to vote. Canada recognized and then corrected the injustice of excluding women, First Nations and Inuit peoples, Chinese, Japanese, and Asian peoples, and those without property from the ballot. In each generation, there must be a national conversation on how to protect our democratic system and culture so that we build on our advances and remove unnecessary barriers. We must continue to strengthen, modernize, and improve our democracy, leaving it a better place than we found it. Has Canada not attracted people? Because it was always an inspiration for the rest of the world. The world is changing, but has our political system kept pace? If harnessed correctly, new technologies have the power to strengthen and simplify our democracy so voters feel connected and confident. Yet we have large areas throughout northern Canada that continue to be left behind because they have been left out of having the benefit of technology. We must also contend with hostile actors who seek new ways to disrupt life in Canada. During my many school visits, I've witnessed well-thought-out conversations and questions that have shown me that Canada's teens are using their skills to think critically and that they are not only capable, but are invested in their country and the world. Their projects have demonstrated the wide-ranging critical ideas that they delve into, including what is community? How has lobbying affected this country? How does immigration impact our country? What kind of environment are we inheriting? Why is our health system not responding? Today's youth are very aware of environmental degradation, destruction, and climate change. They are well aware that without Mother Earth, with its land, air, and water, human beings will not survive. They are using sober second thought more than the many adults who are driving this destruction. They are not at a stage where they have been corrupted by greed of land and natural resources. They want a good and long life with the right to breathe clean air, to drink potable water, and to live on uncontaminated land. Colleagues, as we debate Bill S-222, let us look across the Atlantic for guidance. Canada's parliament is built upon the United Kingdom's Westminster model. We often look to the UK for tradition, but we should also look to them for progress. On February the 12th, 2026, the UK government introduced the Representation of the People Bill 2026, extending the right to vote to 16 and 17-year-olds. In the policy paper by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, published February the 12th, 2026, it states, "Young peoples represent the future of our country. Decisions the government makes now will not only affect young people today, but will have an enduring impact on their entire lives. As such, it's only fair and right that younger people be able to vote. Further, by engaging voters early when they are young and allowing them to have a say in shaping their future, we will build the foundations for their lifelong participation in our local electoral processes." Alongside the legislative measures in the Representation of the People Bill to extend the voting age, empowering and equipping young people with the knowledge and skills they need to participate with a vital part of successfully implementing this change. We are working closely across government and with devolved governments and civil society to develop a package of additional measures focusing on practical democratic and civic education and engagement. The Department of Education has committed to make citizenship compulsory in primary schools and to ensure that all students receive an essential grounding in a range of topics, including democracy, government, and law. Once these changes are in place, young people will benefit from strengthened democratic education before, alongside, and as part of their preparations to exercise their right to vote. This is an opportunity to create truly transformative links between education and democracy, close quote. This shift in the very birthplace of our parliamentary system is deeply relevant. It signals global recognition that the age of attainment for democratic participation must align with the responsibilities these young people already carry. If the Mother of Parliaments can acknowledge that 16-year-olds are ready to help shape their nation's future, surely Canada can do the same. Canadian scholars have been busy. In her July 2021 master's thesis at the University of Western Ontario, entitled "From Classroom to Polling Station: Across Canada Analysis of High School Civics Curricula" by Elizabeth Kozak, it specifically looked at the recent decline in voter turnout, especially amongst young voters. Some experts have begun to fear a generational shift towards political apathy, a shift that could lead to a heavily apolitical society as the generations who value politics are replaced by those who do not. Scholars have been trying to understand what drives turnout, why participation matters, and predict the attitude and behaviors of the Canadian electorate. Through these queries, it has been found that there is a direct link between political knowledge and the likelihood to vote. Although the findings suggest that there is no clear link between curriculum content delivery and intended goals to the expected turnout rate for young voters in Canada, we cannot stop there. Yes, voter turnout is different from extending the voting age, but it makes us realize the critical importance of engaging our youth early, especially in the reality of apathy. The research paper states that, quote, past qualitative studies in Canada and abroad have concluded that locally significant participatory and open classroom settings have proven to be the most effective in educating an engaged citizen. With these findings in mind, Canadian curricula have come under critique for being unengaging, as they emphasize structure and political technicalities over a citizen's role in our national democracy. If citizens are better educated on political processes, empowered to act as conscious citizens, and can better understand how their individual views translate in political spaces, we might see a more engaged and politically literate young generation in Canada, close quote. And that includes 16 and 17-year-olds. With this in mind, we cannot use the argument that youth are informed. We can't use that argument against them. If the schools are not engaging students, then how do the youth suddenly get the political knowledge and life experience at 18, which is a mere 2 to 1 year later from 16 and 17? Opponents to the idea of expanding the voting age question whether 16-year-olds have enough life experience and maturity to vote. Critics have claimed that the decision to move to lower the voting age is opportunistic, as younger people are more likely to vote for left-wing parties. In the work that I do, I'm not going to paint a rosy picture about how easy it was for the UK to form a decision regarding lowering the voting age. Opinion polling done in the UK suggested the public are unsupportive. In June 2024, polling showed 47% of the public oppose and 28% support lowering the voting age. Only 10% of the over 75s supported the change, but 49% of those aged 18 to 26 supported it. A poll of 500 16 and 17-year-olds showed young people were split. The poll found that 49% didn't think the voting age should be lowered to 16, while 51% said it should. Polling in Scotland before the change of voting age for devolved elections showed 2/3 opposed to votes at 16. In 2015, the proportion of people who supported votes at 16 for elections was at 60%. Yet, despite this opposition, the government decided to table their bill to lower the voting age. In that same research briefing, it states, lowering the voting age appears to have a positive influence on young people's engagement. A study of German teenagers found those eligible to vote at 16 were more likely to discuss politics with their family and friends and to use voting advice apps. The study suggests that more research may be needed on whether there is, quote, whether there is an initial effect of lowering the voting age, example, due to press coverage, public debate, or discussions in schools, that may dissipate over time. Most young people, about 2/3, thinks it's important to learn about UK politics. Nearly 3/4 believe politics should be taught more in schools or colleges, close quote. It is critical for Canada to learn and adapt to the transformative changes happening in the world. Giving the skills to our youth is not negotiable. As a First Nations adult, I witnessed critical thinking that comes with sober second thought, and that they were skills that we had, but that were removed through an education system, and that we now need to go back to our land-based teachings and become youth-centered again. This ensures the continuation of humanity. Speaking from the perspective...
Senator McCallum, I'm sorry to interrupt. The time allocated to your speech has expired. Are you asking for 5 more minutes?
If I could.
Is leave granted? Leave is granted. Senator McCallum.
Landon Sanderson is a youth advocate for reconciliation and recently served as Senator McFedrin's Manitoba Youth Liaison. He says, the extension of voting rights in Canada is a vital step in the active deconstruction of colonial governance. The voices and experiences of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and non-status youth must not be perceived as a passive resource for optics, but rather a valuable asset in the future of equitable institutions, close quote. The voices of youth remind us that maturity is not a light switch that flips at 18. It is a quality demonstrated every day by young people who advocate for foundational change, care for elders, and work in our communities. By extending the vote to 16, we aren't just changing a number in an act. We are telling thousands of young Canadians, we see you, we hear you, and we trust in your experiences. I ask you to support the referral of Bill S-222 to committee. Let us give our youth the study, the respect, and finally the power to give voice to what is important in their lives. Thank you.